Driving at night has always been my least favorite thing to do. But on that fateful evening, I had no choice. My best friend, Amy, had called me in tears, stranded at a party in the outskirts of town. I couldn't leave her alone, so I reluctantly grabbed my car keys and ventured into the darkness. The fog rolled in, wrapping around me like a cold, damp shroud. The road ahead seemed endless, and the dense trees lining the highway cast eerie shadows. I turned on the radio to distract myself, but the signal was weak and all I heard was static, like a persistent whisper from the unknown. As I drove, an unsettling feeling gnawed at the pit of my stomach. The road appeared unfamiliar, despite having driven this route numerous times before. My surroundings seemed distorted, like a surreal painting that was constantly shifting. I tried to shake off the unease, telling myself it was merely my nerves playing tricks on me. Suddenly, I noticed a faint light in my rearview mirror, growing brighter by the second. A pair of headlights emerged from the thick fog, and a car sped toward me, swerving recklessly from side to side. Panic surged through me as I struggled to maintain control of my own car. The other vehicle got dangerously close, almost grazing my bumper before disappearing into the dense fog ahead. Heart pounding, I took deep breaths to steady myself. Just stay calm, I told myself, attributing the close encounter to a reckless driver. But the road ahead seemed even stranger now, like a never-ending maze with no escape. Minutes turned into what felt like hours, and there was still no sign of Amy's party or any familiar landmarks. It was as if the road was leading me into an abyss, a place lost in time and space. I spotted a gas station in the distance, its neon lights offering a glimmer of hope. Relieved, I pulled into the station only to find it eerily deserted. The gas pumps were old and rusty, and the flickering lights made the place feel like a haunted carnival from the past. As I stepped out of the car, the silence was deafening. No wind, no distant traffic noise, just the unnerving sound of my own breathing. The hairs on my neck stood on end, and I had the overwhelming urge to leave immediately. But Amy needed my help, so I mustered the courage to walk inside. The gas station's interior was dimly lit, casting deep shadows that seemed to follow my every step. Shelves lined with dusty, expired goods gave the impression that the place had been abandoned for years. A bell above the door chimed as I entered, and I called out, "Hello, is anyone here?" No response. Uneasy, I approached the counter and spotted an old, yellowed map of the region. I examined it closely, but it was missing the road I had been driving on. Instead, it showed only a main highway that didn't seem to exist in this desolate place. As I turned to leave, the bell above the door chimed again. I glanced back and saw the same car that had nearly collided with me on the road. It parked just outside, and a shadowy figure stepped out. Fear gripped me as I recognized the car's driver, a faceless silhouette. I dashed towards my car, my heart pounding in my chest. The figure seemed to follow me, moving effortlessly through the fog. I fumbled with my keys, desperately trying to start the engine. Finally, the car roared to life, and I sped away from the gas station, leaving the shadowy figure behind. As I drove, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that something malevolent lurked in the darkness. The radio crackled to life, and a static-filled voice whispered incomprehensible words. My hands trembled on the steering wheel as the road seemed to stretch on endlessly. I blinked, and suddenly I found myself back at the gas station, the bell above the door chiming as I entered. The same old map was still on the counter, and the car with the faceless figure parked outside. It was as if I had never left. Terrified, I drove away again, but the same nightmarish cycle repeated itself over and over. Each time, the car with the faceless driver pursued me, and each time I ended up back at the gas station. The hours turned to an eternity, and I lost all sense of time. Was I trapped in some kind of nightmarish loop? Was this road cursed, never allowing anyone to leave? Exhausted and on the verge of despair, I caught a glimpse of a faint glimmer of light in the distance. A lighthouse stood tall, cutting through the fog like a beacon of hope. With newfound determination, I drove towards it, the car with the faceless driver still in pursuit. As I approached the lighthouse, the fog grew thicker and the car behind me seemed to fade away. I had no intention of stopping, praying that the lighthouse would hold the key to my escape. With a final burst of speed, I broke through the fog and emerged at the edge of a cliff. The lighthouse loomed ahead, its light sweeping the night sky like a protective guardian. I parked the car and rushed inside, desperate for answers. A solitary figure greeted me inside the lighthouse, an old lighthouse keeper. He spoke softly. "You've stumbled upon the Phantom Highway, a road haunted by lost souls and trapped spirits. You must break the cycle, find your true path, and leave this cursed road behind." His words sank in, and I realized that the only way to break free was to confront my fears and face the darkness head-on. With newfound resolve, I stepped outside and found myself once again on the road. But this time I wasn't afraid. I faced the darkness without flinching, and as I drove on, the fog began to lift. The road became clearer, and soon enough, I saw the familiar landmarks of my hometown. As I approached Amy's party, I found her standing outside, tears streaming down her face. She rushed towards me, embracing me tightly. "I thought you'd never come," she said, relief evident in her voice. I didn't share the terrifying ordeal I had just experienced. Instead, I smiled and assured her that everything was okay. But deep down, I knew that the Phantom Highway would forever be etched into my memory. Driving at night will never be the same for me. The darkness holds secrets beyond our understanding, and the roads we travel might not always lead us where we intend. The Phantom Highway is out there, waiting for lost souls like me, ready to ensnare anyone who dares to wander its haunted path.